I want to know them, Williams Rivers said, his voice breaking with emotion, not for appearances or damage control. I want to be their father. Clara Peterson leaned forward, her emerald eyes sharp as cut glass. You might want that right now, in this moment, with shock making everything feel urgent. But Williams, fatherhood isn't a boardroom. You can't delegate it when it becomes boring. You can't schedule it between acquisitions and golf tournaments. I understand that. Do you? Because 7 years ago, you chose convenience over commitment. You chose the woman who simplified your business arrangements over the woman who challenged you to be better. What's different now? Williams fell silent, watching the twin girls across the room, his daughters, children he never knew existed until 20 minutes ago. 7 years of their lives, gone in an instant. 7 years he could never get back. Everything, he finally whispered, everything is different. Have you ever wondered what happens when the choices of our past come back to reshape our future? When the revenge we thought would be sweet turns into something unexpectedly profound? If you've ever experienced betrayal or wondered about second chances, this story will resonate with your soul. This is about more than just a wealthy CEO and his ex-lover. It's about redemption, forgiveness, and discovering what truly matters when everything we thought we knew changes in an instant. If this is the kind of powerful human story that moves you, hit that like button right now, and let's dive into a tale that might just change how you think about forgiveness and family. 6 hours earlier, Clara Peterson stood in her Chicago penthouse, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. At 38, she'd earned every achievement that defined her public image: founder and CEO of Peterson Designs, philanthropist, self-made millionaire. The world saw confidence and success. The mirror showed a woman preparing for battle. "Mama, are you almost ready?" Madeline called from the bedroom. The pilot said, "We need to leave soon." Clara applied one final coat of lipstick, deep crimson, her armor of choice. "Coming, sweetheart." In the living room, the twins waited by their overnight bags, 7 years old, and already so composed, so distinctly themselves. Madeline with her analytical mind and observant eyes, Olivia with her vibrant imagination and emerald obsession, both with features that sometimes made Clara's heart catch: the shape of their eyes, the determined set of their jaws, echoes of a man they'd never met. Until today. "Remember what I told you about today," Clara said, kneeling to straighten Olivia's collar. "We're meeting someone important," Olivia recited. "And we should be polite, but careful," Madeline added, "because sometimes adults can be complicated." Clara nodded. "That's right. This trip is going to change some things for us, but I promise that no matter what happens, you two are my priority. Always." "Is it about our dad?" Madeline asked directly, always direct, this daughter of hers, always seeing through pretense. Clara took a breath. 7 years of carefully constructed answers, of someday and when you're older. 7 years of protecting them from a truth that was now unavoidable. "Yes," she admitted. "It's about your father." "Is he nice?" Olivia asked, clutching her emerald plush dragon, her constant companion. How to answer that question? Was Williams Rivers nice? He had been, once, before ambition hardened him, before Vanessa Keller entered their lives, before he'd made choices that shattered Clara's heart and changed the course of her life forever. "He's successful," Clara said finally, "very smart. And today, he's going to be very surprised." On the private jet, chartered specifically to make a statement, Clara reviewed her notes one last time. The Peterson Foundation's upcoming profiles in Forbes and Business Insider, the inevitable background checks, the questions about her past, and the twins' paternity that would soon become unavoidable. For 7 years, she'd built a life without Williams Rivers. She'd left New York with nothing but determination and design sketches, pregnant and heartbroken. She'd given birth to twins, launched a fashion line that defied expectations, expanded into a global brand, and created a foundation that empowered women entrepreneurs. She'd done it all without him knowing he had daughters. It hadn't been spite that kept her silent, or not only spite, it had been self-preservation. The memory of finding him with Vanessa in their bed, the cold calculation in his eyes when he'd told her it was just business. That marrying the daughter of his largest investor made more strategic sense than continuing their relationship. It's nothing personal, Clara, he'd said, as if that somehow made betrayal more palatable. This is about building an empire. So she'd built her own empire instead. And now, with media attention focusing on her foundation work, the story would inevitably come out. Better to control the narrative. Better to force Williams to face what his strategic decision had cost him. Mama, look, New York. Olivia pressed her face against the window as the skyline came into view. It's like a giant Lego creation. It does look like that, Clara agreed, pushing away memories of when she'd loved this city, when she'd walked its streets hand in hand with Williams, planning their future together. Is that where our father lives? Madeline asked. Yes, in a building called Riverstone Tower. Does he own it? He owns many things, Clara said carefully, but that doesn't necessarily make him rich. That doesn't make sense, Madeline frowned. If he owns a lot of valuable things, then by definition, he is wealthy. Clara smiled despite her nerves. There are different kinds of wealth, Maddie. Money is just one kind, and sometimes the wealthiest people are the poorest in what truly matters. The Riverstone Tower rose like a gleaming spire of glass and steel in midtown Manhattan, a monument to Williams Rivers' success. As their car pulled up to the entrance, Clara felt a sudden, irrational urge to tell the driver to turn around, to take her daughters back to the airport, back to Chicago, back to the life she'd carefully constructed without him. Instead, she straightened her spine, took each twin by the hand, and walked through the doors as if she owned the building herself. The receptionist looked up from her desk, professional smile faltering slightly at the sight of children in the corporate lobby. Good morning. How may I help you? Clara Peterson to see Williams Rivers. He's expecting me. Not exactly true. His assistant had confirmed the meeting, but Clara had been deliberately vague about its purpose. Of course, Miss Peterson. Mr. Rivers is in his penthouse office, top floor. In the elevator, Clara watched the floor numbers climb. Beside her, the twins stood quietly, sensing the tension in their mother's grip. Stand tall, girls, she murmured. Remember what I told you about first impressions. Shoulders back, chin up, eyes clear, Madeline recited. And smile when appropriate, Olivia added. The elevator doors parted silently to reveal an executive suite that epitomized wealth and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan. Modern art worth millions adorned the walls. And there, silhouetted against the city skyline, stood Williams Rivers. 7 years had been kind to him. At 41, he'd grown more distinguished. Silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, his posture still commanding. When he turned, his confident smile froze, dark eyes widening as they moved from Clara to the children. Clara, he managed, his voice rougher than she remembered. This is unexpected. I imagine it is, she replied, guiding the twins toward a seating area. Girls, please sit here for a moment. The grown-ups need to talk. Are we in trouble? Olivia whispered. No, darling, not at all. Clara handed them each a tablet from her bag. Play your games quietly for a few minutes. Williams hadn't moved, seemingly rooted to the spot. His gaze kept returning to the twins, calculation and shock warring across his features. How old? He asked, the question barely audible. 7. Their birthday was last May. She watched him calculate backwards. 7 years and 9 months from May would place conception in August. August 7 years ago, when everything between them had imploded. They're mine, he said, not a question. Biologically, yes, in every way that actually matters. Clara arched an eyebrow. That remains to be seen. Williams crossed to his desk and sank into his chair, suddenly looking less like the business titan worth $800 million, and more like a man whose foundation had just cracked beneath him. Why now, Clara? 7 years without a word. You want to have that conversation here? She nodded toward the girls, who were pretending not to listen while absorbing every word. Because I can give you that answer, but it won't be pretty. And they're sitting right there. He glanced at the twins, who quickly looked down at their tablets. No, he said quietly. You're right. Not here. After a pause, what are their names? Madeline and Olivia. Hello, Olivia offered without looking up. I'm designing a castle. It's going to have emerald towers. Castles don't have emerald towers. Madeline countered. That's not historically accurate. Mine does, Olivia insisted. Because I like emeralds. A sound escaped Williams, halfway between a laugh and something more broken. They're extraordinary, he whispered. Yes, Clara agreed, which is precisely why I kept them away from you for 7 years, to make sure they stayed that way. The words hung in the air like an indictment. Williams absorbed them with visible pain, his customary confidence fractured in ways she'd never seen before. I deserve that, he acknowledged quietly. I deserve far worse. We agree on something, then. Clara crossed her legs, settling into the visitor's chair with the poise of someone conducting a business negotiation. But we're not here to discuss what you deserve. We're here because circumstances have changed. Wait, before I continue with this pivotal moment between Clara and Williams, I need to speak directly to you. If you're still watching, I know this story has touched something deep inside you. Maybe you've experienced betrayal like Clara. Maybe you've made mistakes like Williams. Or maybe you simply understand that life rarely gives us clean, easy paths to happiness. What happens next will redefine not just these two people, but those innocent children caught in the middle of adult choices. If you're invested in this journey of redemption and reckoning, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Mr. Kingsley Luxe Stories for more powerful tales that illuminate the human condition. Now, let's return to that penthouse office where lives are about to change forever. What circumstances? Williams asked, his voice steadier now, the businessman reasserting control. Clara slid a folder across the polished desk. Inside was a glossy brochure for the Peterson Foundation for Women in Business, her nonprofit that provided mentorship, funding, and support to female entrepreneurs facing extraordinary obstacles. You built this, he said, studying the materials with genuine admiration. A foundation. I built an empire, Clara corrected him. The foundation is just one facet. Peterson Designs has boutiques in 14 cities across 3 continents. I employ over 400 people. I built a 9-figure business in 7 years while raising 2 children entirely alone. She wasn't bragging, merely establishing facts. The foundation is expanding, Clara continued, which requires significant publicity. I'm being profiled by several major publications. When they dig into my background, and they will, they'll discover our history. They'll find out about you, about why I left New York 7 years ago, about the twins. Williams studied her face. So, you're here to control the narrative. I'm here to give you a choice, Clara replied. You can be absent by circumstance, 2 people who lost touch amid complicated situations. Or you can be absent by choice, the millionaire who abandoned his pregnant girlfriend for his business partner's wife. Which story would you prefer the public to believe? The manipulation was elegant, and they both recognized it. Clara was offering redemption disguised as pragmatism. I want to know them, Williams said immediately. Not for appearances, not to control any narrative. I want to be their father. You might want that right now, in this moment, with shock making everything feel urgent, Clara countered. But Williams, fatherhood isn't a boardroom. You can't delegate it when it becomes boring. You can't schedule it between acquisitions and golf tournaments. I understand that. Do you? Because 7 years ago you chose convenience over commitment. You chose the woman who simplified your business arrangements over the woman who challenged you to be better. What's different now? Williams fell silent, watching the twins. Madeline had abandoned her tablet and was examining his office with analytical attention. Olivia hummed softly while adding fantastical elements to her castle design. Everything, he finally said. Everything is different. 7 years ago, I was building wealth and measuring success in acquisitions and assets. I thought achievement could substitute for actually living. I was wrong. Pretty words, Clara observed. But I've heard your pretty words before. They didn't mean much when you were sleeping with Vanessa 3 weeks after promising me forever. Mama, Madeline said quietly, still studying the art on Williams's wall. Who's Vanessa? Clara closed her eyes briefly, cursing herself. She'd promised herself she wouldn't let old bitterness poison this moment. No one important, she said gently. Ancient history. Then why do you sound angry when you say her name? Madeline had her father's perceptiveness, Clara realized with a start. That same sharp intelligence that missed nothing. Because sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt other adults, Clara explained. But that's not something you need to worry about. How's your design coming, Olivia? Perfect. Olivia held up her tablet, showing an elaborate emerald-towered castle with intricate gardens surrounding it. Want to see? It's beautiful, sweetheart. Very creative. Williams was watching this exchange with an expression Clara couldn't quite interpret, something between wonder and profound grief. May I see? He asked Olivia hesitantly. When Clara nodded permission, Olivia brought her tablet to Williams, holding it up proudly. This is Emerald Keep. It's where the queen of everything lives, she explained seriously. It's magnificent, Williams said, studying it with genuine interest. The architecture is quite innovative. I especially like the spiral towers. Told you emerald towers are good. Olivia shot her sister a triumphant look. Are you our dad? Madeline asked suddenly, her directness cutting through the careful adult diplomacy. The question hung in the air. Williams looked at Clara, silently asking permission to answer. She gave a slight nod. Yes, Williams said simply. I am. I didn't know about you until today, which means I've missed the first 7 years of your lives. I can't change that, and I'm more sorry about it than I can express. But if you'll let me, I'd very much like to get to know you now. Madeline processed this with visible skepticism. Why didn't you know we existed? Where were you? That's complicated, Williams began. Adults always say complicated when they don't want to explain something, Madeline interrupted. I'm 7, not stupid. A genuine smile crossed Williams's face. You're absolutely right, he acknowledged. You deserve an honest answer. The truth is, your mother and I had a relationship that ended badly. When she discovered she was pregnant, she made the decision not to tell me. That was her right, and I understand why she made that choice, even though I wish things had been different. It was a diplomatic answer that didn't assign blame, and Clara respected him for it, even as she added necessary context. The relationship ended because he chose someone else, Clara clarified, keeping her voice neutral. I left New York because staying would have been too painful. I built our life in Chicago without his help or knowledge. Those are the facts. So you were sad and left, and didn't tell him about us because you were angry? Olivia asked, trying to piece together the story. Something like that, Clara agreed. But it wasn't just anger, darling. I was hurt and frightened, and trying to protect myself, and later to protect you both. Were you mean to Mama? Madeline asked Williams directly. Yes, Williams answered without hesitation. I was selfish and careless with her feelings. I hurt her badly. That's not her perception or opinion. It's fact, and I've regretted it every day since. The honesty seemed to satisfy Madeline, who nodded slowly. Olivia, however, had more questions. Do you want to be our dad now? Very much, Williams said, even though we're 7, and you missed when we were babies. Especially because of that. I'd like to be here for all the moments that come next, if you and your sister will allow me to try. We'll think about it, Olivia declared, with the seriousness of someone concluding a business negotiation. Then she returned to her castle, considering the matter temporarily closed. Clara found herself fighting a smile despite the surreality of the situation. Her daughters were evaluating their relationship with their father like tiny executives, and somehow Williams was managing to respond appropriately. We need to establish parameters, Clara said, pulling the conversation back to practical matters. If you want involvement, it must be genuine and consistent, not occasional visits when your schedule permits, not expensive gifts instead of presents. Agreed. Whatever it takes. I live in Chicago. The girls have school, friends, activities, a stable life there. If you want to be part of that life, you'll need to come to us. I can do that, Williams said immediately. I'll fly out every weekend to start, more often if you'll permit it. We'll start with once a month, Clara countered. Let them adjust gradually. You can call them weekly if they're comfortable with it, but Williams... She leaned forward, her voice dropping to ensure the girls wouldn't hear. If you commit to this, you commit completely. You don't get to decide 6 months from now that fatherhood is inconvenient. You don't get to disappoint them the way you disappointed me. I won't, he promised. And something in his voice suggested sincerity. I want this. I want to know them. I want to be better than I was. Wanting isn't enough. Doing is what matters. Show up consistently, even when it's difficult. They spent the next hour establishing logistics and boundaries. Clara had already prepared custody agreements that protected her primary parental rights while giving Williams supervised visitation. Financial arrangements acknowledged his obligations while making clear she didn't need his money. Every detail was negotiated with precision, creating a framework that would allow him into their lives without endangering the stability she'd fought to build. Through it all, the twins remained focused on their tablets, occasionally asking questions that revealed how carefully they were monitoring the adult conversation. By the time they finished, 2 hours had passed, and Olivia was growing restless. "Mama, I'm hungry," she announced. "We'll get lunch in a few minutes, sweetie. We're almost done." "Can he come?" Olivia pointed at Williams. "If he's our dad, shouldn't he eat with us?" Clara hadn't anticipated extending the meeting into a meal, but both girls were looking at her expectantly. "If he wants to," she said carefully, making clear she wasn't eager for it. "I'd love to," William said immediately, "if everyone is comfortable with that." "I want salmon," Madeline stipulated. "Not just sandwiches, proper food." "I like sandwiches," Olivia countered, "especially with the crusts cut off." "That's because you like everything plain and boring," Madeline shot back. "Girls," Clara intervened gently, "we can find a place that serves both. Problem solved." They ended up at an upscale bistro 6 blocks from Riverstone Tower. Williams looked almost uncomfortable in his bespoke suit amid the casual lunch crowd, sitting across from Clara while the twins chattered about school and friends and their elaborate imaginary kingdom where Olivia ruled as queen of everything and Madeline served as royal architect. "Madeline wants to be an architect," Olivia explained through a mouthful of crustless sandwich. "She's always drawing buildings." "Is that true?" Williams asked Madeline directly. "Maybe," Madeline allowed. "I like designing spaces, how they flow, how they work with light. It's like solving a puzzle." "Spatial reasoning," Williams nodded. "I studied architecture briefly before business school. The mathematics of design, the balance of form and function." Madeline's eyes lit up with unexpected enthusiasm. "Do you know about cantilevers? We learned about them in my weekend engineering program." "I do. They're structural elements that project horizontally into space, supported only at one end." And just like that, they were engaged in animated conversation about architectural principles, speaking the same language of design and structure, while Clara and Olivia exchanged amused glances. "Boring," Olivia whispered to Clara. "A little," Clara agreed, smiling. "But it's nice they found something to talk about." It was nice, she admitted privately, watching Williams engage with Madeline as an equal, not condescending or simplifying, but treating a 7-year-old's interests with genuine respect. This was the Williams she'd fallen for years ago, attentive, intellectually curious, capable of making others feel truly seen. She'd forgotten he could be like this, or perhaps she'd forced herself to forget, because remembering made the betrayal hurt more acutely. After lunch, they walked back to Riverstone Tower where Clara's driver waited. The autumn afternoon was pleasant, golden light softening the city's hard edges. The twins walked between Clara and Williams, Olivia holding Clara's hand while Madeline maintained her independence. "When will we see you again?" Olivia asked Williams as they reached the waiting car. Williams glanced at Clara for guidance before answering. 2 weeks, he said when she nodded. "I'll come to Chicago. We can do something you enjoy, anything you'd like." "Could we visit the Art Institute?" Madeline asked. "They have an architecture exhibit right now." "Can we go to the conservatory?" Olivia added. "They have emerald-colored flowers there." "We'll do both," Williams promised. "The museum and the conservatory." The girls seemed satisfied with this plan. They said goodbye without drama, already processing this new person in their lives with the remarkable adaptability of well-adjusted children. But before Clara could usher them into the car, Williams touched her elbow lightly. "May I have a moment?" he asked quietly. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "Wait in the car, girls. I'll be right there." Once they were out of earshot, Williams seemed to struggle for words, unusual for a man renowned for his persuasive business presentations. "Thank you," he finally said, "for this chance I don't deserve." "Don't thank me yet," Clara replied. "This isn't about redemption. This is about 2 children who deserve to know their father. If you disappoint them, you'll never get another opportunity." "I won't," he promised. "Clara, Don't," she interrupted. Whatever you're about to say, whatever apology or explanation you've crafted over the years, save it. This is about Madeline and Olivia, not about us. There is no us anymore." "I understand," he said quietly. "I just want you to know I recognize what I threw away, what I lost through my own selfishness." Clara studied him for a moment. "One more thing. Vanessa, is she still in your life?" "No," Williams said immediately. "That ended years ago. It was a mistake from the beginning." "I don't care about your relationship history," Clara said coldly. "I just need to know she won't be around my daughters." "She won't be, I promise you that." Clara nodded once, then walked to her car without looking back. As they pulled away, she caught a glimpse of Williams still standing on the sidewalk, watching them leave, his expression unreadable. "Mama?" Olivia's voice came from the back seat. "Is he nice?" "I don't know yet," Clara answered honestly. "What do you think?" "I think he seems sad," Olivia said thoughtfully, "like he lost something important." "He did," Madeline added with the certainty of someone stating obvious facts. "He lost us for 7 years. That's a lot of losing." Out of the mouths of children, Clara thought, sometimes they saw truth more clearly than adults ever could. The flight back to Chicago felt longer than usual, the twins eventually falling asleep while Clara stared out the window at the gathering darkness below. She'd done it, told Williams about the children, navigated the first meeting, established boundaries. She should feel relieved, accomplished, satisfied with her handling of a difficult situation. Instead, she felt exhausted, and, if she was being completely honest with herself, faintly hopeful. Not for herself, she'd sealed that door years ago, but for her daughters. Perhaps they could have a father who proved that people could learn from mistakes, could become better versions of themselves. She'd believe it when she saw it. Until then, the walls would stay up, the boundaries would remain firm, and she would continue being exactly what she'd learned to be, complete unto herself, dependent on no one, surviving everything. If you're still with me, I know this story has touched something in your heart. We all know what it's like to build walls to protect ourselves from past hurts. We've all wondered if people can truly change, and most of us understand that sometimes the revenge we think we want isn't what we need at all. If Clara's journey speaks to you, hit that like button right now. Comment below with a time when you had to choose between protection and possibility in your own life. Now, let's see what happens when Williams Rivers attempts to enter the lives of the daughters he never knew he had. Williams Rivers sat alone in his penthouse that evening, a glass of untouched scotch in his hand, staring at the New York skyline without seeing it. Daughters. He had 7-year-old daughters, twin girls with Clara's grace in his eyes, children who had been walking the earth for 7 years without him knowing they existed. The shock was giving way to something more complex, grief for the time lost, anger at Clara for keeping them from him, and beneath it all, a haunting recognition that he had earned this punishment. He had chosen Vanessa Keller and the business advantages she represented over the woman he truly loved. He had made that choice coldly, calculatingly, believing it was strategic brilliance. Instead, it had cost him everything that mattered. His phone buzzed with messages from his executive team, board meetings to prepare for, acquisition deals to review. None of it seemed important now. Williams opened his laptop and typed Peterson Designs into the search bar. He'd known, peripherally, that Clara had found success. Her label had been featured in major fashion magazines. But he'd never looked closely, never allowed himself to dwell on what she'd accomplished without him. The website was sophisticated and elegant, just like Clara herself. Collection after collection of designs that combined classic lines with modern sensibilities. Press features in Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, a corporate philosophy emphasizing ethical production and female leadership. He clicked on About the Founder and found himself staring at a professional photograph of Clara, poised, confident, successful. The bio mentioned her rise from design assistant to global fashion leader, her commitment to mentoring women in business, her foundation work. It mentioned that she was a single mother to twin daughters but gave no details about their paternity. She had done all of this while raising his children alone. Williams leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Clara had built and what he had missed. First steps, first words, first days of school, all the moments that could never be recaptured. And why? For a marriage to Vanessa that had lasted less than 3 years before imploding in scandal and recrimination. For business advantages that had ultimately meant nothing compared to what he'd lost. His assistant knocked lightly on the door. "Mr. Rivers, your 5 o'clock is waiting." "Cancel it," Williams said without turning around. "Cancel everything for the rest of the week." "Sir, the board meeting tomorrow. Reschedule it. Family emergency." Family. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Yet suddenly, it was the only thing that mattered. He picked up his phone and called his pilot. "Prepare the jet for Chicago, 2 weeks from today." Over the next 2 weeks, Williams found it nearly impossible to focus on business. His mind constantly returned to Madeline and Olivia, their names, their faces, their distinct personalities already evident in that brief meeting. Madeline, analytical and direct, with her interest in architecture and her skeptical assessment of his sudden appearance in their lives. Olivia, creative and whimsical, with her emerald obsession and her instant acceptance of him as our dad. Both of them extraordinary in ways he had no right to claim credit for. Clara had done that. Clara, who had every reason to hate him, yet who had found the grace to allow him this chance. He called the twins 3 times that first week. Awkward video conversations where he learned about their school, their friends, their interests. Madeline showed him detailed drawings of buildings she'd designed. Olivia introduced him to her collection of dragons, all in varying shades of green. Clara remained in the background during these calls, present but distant, monitoring without interfering. Her walls were evident in the careful neutrality of her expression, the precise way she ended each call, exactly on schedule. He found himself watching her during these brief interactions, cataloging the changes 7 years had wrought. The softness was gone, replaced by a composed strength. Her laughter, once so readily given, now appeared only for the twins. She had rebuilt herself into someone formidable, someone who didn't need him or anyone else. When the day of his Chicago visit finally arrived, Williams found himself uncharacteristically nervous. He'd faced billion-dollar negotiations with less anxiety than he felt approaching Clara's elegant brownstone in Lincoln Park. The door opened before he could knock, and there stood Olivia, beaming. "You came!" "I promised I would," Williams said, kneeling to her level. "I always keep my promises." "Now you do," came Madeline's voice from behind her sister. "According to Mama, you didn't before." Williams winced, but didn't deny it. "You're right. I didn't always keep my promises in the past, but I'm trying to be better now." Clara appeared in the doorway, dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, yet somehow more elegant than most women he knew in designer gowns. "You're punctual," she observed. "That's a start." "I wouldn't waste a minute of time with them," Williams replied honestly. Something flickered in Clara's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, at his sincerity. "The girls are ready for your outing. They've been talking about it all week." The day unfolded in ways Williams couldn't have anticipated. At the Art Institute, Madeline led him through the architecture exhibit with the authority of a seasoned docent, explaining principles she understood with remarkable clarity for a 7-year-old. "The cantilevers here create visual tension," she explained, pointing to a model of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water. "The building looks like it might fall, but it's actually very strong. It's about balance and counterweight." "Like life," Williams observed. "Sometimes the things that look most precarious are actually the most secure if they're built on the right foundation." Madeline gave him a considering look. "Are you trying to make architecture metaphorical?" "Maybe a little," he admitted with a smile. At the conservatory, Olivia was in her element among the emerald foliage and exotic flowers. She skipped ahead, pointing out every green bloom with delight. "This one's called Jade Vine," she announced, pointing to an unusual hanging flower. "It's exactly the color I want for my queen's throne." "Your queen?" Williams asked. "In her kingdom," Madeline explained with the patience of someone accustomed to translating her sister's imagination. "Olivia has this whole world she's created. I design the buildings, and she decides what happens in them." "That sounds like an excellent partnership," Williams said. "Complementary skills." "That's what Mama says," Olivia agreed. "That we're complementary." She sounded out the word carefully. "It means we're different in ways that make us better together." "Your mother is very wise," Williams said softly. Clara had maintained a careful distance throughout the day, allowing him space with the twins while remaining close enough to observe. Now, as they sat at a cafe inside the conservatory, she studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. "You're good with them," she said, sounding almost reluctant to admit it. "Better than I expected. They make it easy. They're incredible children." They are, but children respond to genuine interest. They can sense insincerity instantly. Clara set down her cup. "You're actually interested in what they have to say. That's unexpected." "Why? Because I was selfish before?" Williams asked. "I was. I don't deny it. But Clara, that man, the one who hurt you, I don't recognize him anymore. I haven't for years." "People don't change that fundamentally, Williams. Sometimes they do. Sometimes life teaches lessons you can't ignore." He glanced at the twins, now examining a butterfly that had landed near their table. "Sometimes you wake up one day and realize everything you thought mattered is meaningless, and everything that actually matters is gone." Clara's expression remained skeptical, but something in her eyes suggested she was listening, truly listening, for perhaps the first time. The days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. True to his word, Williams flew to Chicago every 2 weeks. He attended Madeline's science fair, where her structural engineering project won first place. He sat through Olivia's dance recital, recording every moment of her emerald-costumed performance as the Sugar Plum Fairy. Between visits, he called the twins every other day, not just perfunctory check-ins, but real conversations. He learned about their friends, their teachers, their daily triumphs and frustrations. He began to understand the rhythm of their lives that had taken shape entirely without him. 3 months after that first meeting, Clara found Williams waiting outside her office at Peterson Design's headquarters. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. Clara glanced at her watch. "I have 15 minutes before my next meeting." "It's enough," Williams replied, following her into her elegantly appointed office. Clara settled behind her desk, the power dynamic clearly established. This was her territory, her success, her terms. "What's this about? The girls mentioned you canceled your call yesterday. Are you finding the commitment too demanding already?" "No," Williams said firmly. "Just the opposite. I canceled because I was in meetings with my board. I'm opening a Chicago office. I've purchased a house 10 minutes from yours. I'll be living here 4 days a week." Clara stared at him. "That's extreme." "Is it? I've missed 7 years. Every other weekend isn't enough. Phone calls aren't enough. I want to be at their school events, their doctor appointments. I want to be present for ordinary Tuesdays, not just special occasions." "And your business?" "Riverstone requires your presence in New York." "My business will adapt. I have capable executives who can manage day-to-day operations. Technology makes remote leadership possible." Williams leaned forward. "Clara, for years I built a company at the expense of everything else. I'm not making that mistake again." "And the board approved this arrangement?" "They didn't have a choice. I still own controlling interest." Clara studied him, searching for ulterior motives. "Why, Williams? What are you really doing here?" "Trying to be worthy of knowing them," he answered simply. "Trying to be the father they deserve, even if I can never make up for the years I missed." "And is that all?" Clara asked, something unreadable in her expression. Williams met her gaze directly. "No, I'm also trying to show you that people can change, that I have changed. Not for redemption or forgiveness, I have no right to expect either from you, but because you should know that what happened between us wasn't your failure, it was mine." Before Clara could respond, her assistant knocked. "Your 1 o'clock is here, Miss Peterson." Clara nodded, her composure returning. "We'll continue this conversation another time." "Of course," Williams said, rising. "I'll pick the girls up from school on Friday, if that still works for you." "It does," Clara confirmed. "They're looking forward to it." If you've stayed with this story so far, you understand what's unfolding here is more than just a tale of revenge backfiring. It's about transformation. How facing consequences can sometimes lead us to become better versions of ourselves. Is Williams truly changed? Or is this just an elaborate performance to win back what he lost? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss how this powerful story concludes. Share this with someone who needs to believe that redemption is possible even after devastating mistakes. Williams's move to Chicago changed everything. Suddenly, He was a constant presence, at school drop-offs, at weekend activities, at the impromptu dinner invitations the twins extended that Clara found increasingly difficult to refuse. The house he purchased was tasteful and understated, with rooms specially designed for each twin. For Madeline, a space with drafting tables and architectural models. For Olivia, a room painted in varying shades of green, with a canopied bed fit for her imaginary queen. "He's trying so hard," Elena, Clara's assistant and closest friend, observed one afternoon as they watched Williams teaching the girls to fly kites in the park across from Peterson Design's headquarters. "It's almost painful to watch." "Is it?" Clara asked, her tone deliberately neutral. "You know it is. The mighty Williams Rivers, arranging his entire life around second-grade science projects and ballet lessons." Elena studied Clara's profile. "The question is, why are you still punishing him?" "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting my children." "Are you? Or are you protecting yourself?" Clara turned away from the window. "I have a business to run." But Elena's question lingered. Was she still punishing Williams? Or was she simply afraid to acknowledge the evidence before her eyes, that the man who had once broken her heart was becoming someone worthy of trust? 5 months after Williams entered their lives, Clara received a call from Madeline's school. Her daughter had fallen during recess and needed to be picked up. "I'm in the middle of a critical investor meeting," Clara told the school nurse. "Can she wait 30 minutes? "Actually, her father is already here," the nurse replied. "He arrived within 10 minutes of our call." Clara felt a complex surge of emotions, gratitude that Madeline wasn't waiting alone, and something else she wasn't ready to name. Relief, perhaps. The novel sensation of having someone to share the burden she'd carried alone for so long. When she arrived home that evening, she found Williams in her kitchen, helping both girls with homework, while a homemade dinner simmered on the stove. "Before you say anything," he said, catching her surprised expression, "Madeline's ankle is just sprained. The doctor said ice and elevation for 2 days, and I hope you don't mind that I used my key. The girls were hungry and I thought—" "Thank you," Clara interrupted. The words felt strange on her tongue, not because they were undeserved, but because she'd spent years practicing not needing anyone's help, for taking care of them, for being there when I couldn't be. Something shifted between them in that moment. A hairline crack in the fortress Clara had built around her heart. The following week, Clara found herself facing a crisis at the foundation. A major donor had pulled out unexpectedly, leaving a fundraiser for female entrepreneurs in jeopardy. "We need $200,000 to cover the shortfall," Elena reported grimly. "Without it, we'll have to cancel the event and return the grant money." Clara was still calculating options when her phone rang. "Williams, I heard about the donor situation," he said without preamble. "How did you—" "Elena called me." Clara made a mental note to fire her assistant, or at least seriously consider it. "I don't need your money, Williams." "I know you don't, but the women who would benefit from that fundraiser do. This isn't about you or me. It's about the work your foundation does." Clara closed her eyes. He was right, of course. Pride was a luxury when other people's futures hung in the balance. "No strings," Williams continued. "Anonymous donation. The foundation gets what it needs, and you don't have to feel beholden to me." "Why are you doing this?" There was a pause before he answered. "Because 7 years ago, I made choices based solely on what benefited me. I'm trying to make different choices now." Clara accepted the donation. The fundraiser proceeded as planned, launching the careers of 12 female entrepreneurs who would never know how close their dreams had come to derailment. 6 months into Williams's new role as father, the inevitable happened. Vanessa Keller returned to their lives. It began with a phone call from a journalist friend. "Clara, I thought you should know. Vanessa is back in Chicago. She's giving interviews about her enduring connection with Williams Rivers and hinting at a reconciliation. Something about how they're destined to find their way back to each other." Clara's stomach clenched. She'd known this day might come. Vanessa had always been opportunistic, and Williams's increased public profile in Chicago created a perfect opening for her to reassert herself in his life. What Clara hadn't expected was how much it would hurt. Not because she still loved Williams, she'd moved past that years ago, she told herself, but because this threatened the fragile family structure they'd been building for the twins' sake. She didn't mention the call to Williams. Pride again, perhaps, or fear of seeming like the jealous ex, when she had no right to those feelings anymore. 3 days later, Williams arrived for his regular dinner with the twins. He seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly, his usual focused attention fractured. After the girls went to bed, he lingered in Clara's living room. "I need to tell you something," he said, his expression grave. "Let me guess. Vanessa has reappeared," Clara replied, keeping her voice neutral. Williams looked startled. "You knew?" "I have sources. She's been talking to journalists about your enduring connection." Williams ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she remembered from years ago. "It's nonsense. I haven't spoken to her in years." "You don't owe me explanations about your personal life," Clara said carefully. "Yes, I do. Because it affects the girls." Williams paced the room. "She showed up at my office yesterday, wanted to reconnect. I told her I wasn't interested." "And?" "And she threatened to go public with stories about our past, about you, about how I abandoned you when you were pregnant." Clara felt cold. "She knows about the twins?" "She's done her research. She's threatening to paint me as a father who rejected his own children, to create a scandal that would hurt my business, and potentially yours." "What does she want?" "A position at Riverstone, money, status." Williams stopped pacing to look directly at Clara. "None of which she'll get from me. I've already instructed my legal team to prepare for whatever lies she chooses to spread." "This could affect the girls," Clara said quietly. "If this becomes public, they'll hear things, difficult things." "I know." Williams moved closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could see the determination in his eyes. "That's why I'm here. To tell you that I will handle this. I will protect them, and you, whatever it takes. Even if it costs you?" "They're worth any cost," Williams said simply. "So are you." The words hung between them, laden with meaning neither was ready to fully acknowledge. What happened next would test everything they'd built, challenge every boundary Clara had established, and force both of them to decide what mattered most: pride, protection, or the possibility of something neither had dared to imagine.